What up, comics degenerates? In association with Dirty Deeds Pro Wrestling page, we're here to talk about Cody Rhodes leaving for AEW. Now, this is a hot topic. A lot of people are talking about it, and I just thought, well, we thought as Dirty Deeds, we would talk about it as well. So let's talk about this. It seems that Cody Rhodes is leaving for WWE. Matter of fact, because his contract has expired, he can actually join WWE within the next week as you're hearing this, because he could join Raw or SmackDown as soon as they get back from Saudi Arabia because his contract expired. So, going off of that, a lot of people thought that it was a work. A lot of people thought that there's no way that Cody Rhodes, one of the founders of AEW, one of the founding fathers, would just leave it. But it does seem that this is not a work, and he has indeed left to join WWE. Because a lot of people was wondering what's up with Brandy, because there was that angle with her and Paige Van Zant's sexy ass. I highly encourage you guys to check out the Dirty Deeds Pro Wrestling page and the Dirty Deeds Pro Wrestling page Twitter account for more Paige Van Zant. Just throwing that out there. So when that just happened to disappear and not go anywhere, we knew something was up. So Cody released a statement, as well as Tony Khan in AEW, saying that he has departed the company. Going forward with that, let's talk about things that we actually know, because there's a lot of rumors going around the internet, other wrestling news sites. But I thought that, we would just discuss the facts and things that we know for sure. We know that there has been trouble with Cody Rhodes and the other EVPs, that being the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. They've distanced themselves from each other. It seems like since AEW in its 3-year tenure, the first year it was kind of okay, but then after that first year, there was clearly something going on, and they weren't even talking to each other. Their segments had nothing to do with each other. It just seems like Cody was doing his own thing. He was feuding with QT Marshall and his cronies, and while Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks were actually, just having fun doing whatever it is that they were doing, but they were still working together. We also know that there has been a lot of talks in AEW about Brandy Rhodes. A lot of people don't like her. Now, I understand that there are people that do like her. I read somewhere that someone said that nobody liked Brandy Rhodes in the back. And let's be honest, that's not true, because you're always going to find some people out in the back of pro wrestling that agrees with you, that agrees with what you're saying, what you're doing. So obviously that's not true. Some people had to like Brandy to a certain extent. So moving forward, Cody Rhodes is going back to WWE. What does that mean for his name? The name Cody Rhodes. Because if you guys remember, Cody Rhodes fought his ass off to get his name back, because he needed his last name for his Hollywood job. He needed a last name for the Go Big show. A lot of companies just didn't want a guy that had Cody. They wanted someone to have a last name. So he managed to get his last name back from WWE, because at the time AEW had the rights to Bash at the Beach. So they traded off for Bash at the Beach for Cody Rhodes' name. I know Tony Khan is regretting that now. But anyway, I wonder, with him fighting so hard for his name, is he just willing to turn it back over to WWE all over again? Now, let's talk about what we do know. I would say the rumors. The reason that the deal fell through and Cody Rhodes decided not to re-sign with AEW and decided to leave AEW. Apparently, he wanted more money. And from what I'm hearing, and this has not been confirmed, from what I'm hearing, Cody Rhodes wanted something crazy like $3 million a year for like 3 to 5 years or something like that. And I know a lot of you are thinking to yourselves, $3 million a year is an absurd amount of money. But if you look at it from Cody Rhodes' side and his delusional mind, what he was thinking, okay, I need money for my job as a talent, as an in-ring talent, and also as an executive vice president. Now, when you think about it like that, the Young Bucks recently just signed new AEW contracts as well. And they went on Twitter saying that their grandchildren are set for life. And they, and they're EVPs as well. And, Cody is too. And it seems that the Young Bucks are happy with their contract. But again, $3 million a year for 3 to 4 years, that's kind of excessive. It really is. So again, I don't know about all of that. Also, we know for a fact that the EVPs, they don't have as much power as they once had. And that's a good thing because Kenny Omega completely initially fucked up the women's division. I mean, I don't care for women's wrestling. No one in Dirty Deeds actually does, but for those of you that do care about women's wrestling, he kind of really muckied that up. Anybody can tell that. The Young Bucks did the same thing for the tag team division as well. I mean, Cody, for the most part, I guess the singles division or whatever else he ran was okay. He did a good job with Britt Baker. Making her into the character that she is now. I will give him that much. But again, I mean, he didn't have the power anymore to book himself as the top guy. And when it's all said and done, I mean, when it's really all said and done, it was never really about a revolution. I believe the great Brian Last said something like this on Twitter. The great Brian Last, he's the co-host for Jim Cornette's podcast, The Experience and the Drive Through. He said something to this regard that, it was never about the revolution for Cody Rhodes. It was always about, his ego. It was always about, the money and the power and getting to Hollywood. That's what it was always about with Cody Rhodes. And it's no surprise to him. Again, this is still Brian Last speaking. I'm paraphrasing. He says it's no, him leaving, that was always going to happen. He was always going to be the first EVP out and the least missed. So seems to be a lot of hate for Cody Rhodes. And I went to the Young Bucks Twitter account. Once Cody Rhodes announced his release, the Young Bucks wrote, "Thank God for us." Now, when they said thank God, they wrote capital T and then capital G. So they want to make sure that you paid attention to the thank God part. And then for us was all in small lowercase words. So it seems that Cody Rhodes had a lot of heat backstage. And again, like the great Brian Last said, it's always been about ego. And he's right when it comes to Cody Rhodes. Look at how Cody Rhodes booked himself in AEW. He had to be the first match ever on Dynamite. Okay, he had to be the first ever TNT champion. He had to be the first ever two-time TNT champion. His intro, for God's sakes. I mean, look, compared to every other wrestler there, people like CM Punk, people like Bryan Danielson, even Moxley. You look at Jericho even. You look at all those intros. Cody Rhodes had to have the most spectacular entrance in AEW. And that's how he booked himself as that, with the, rising from the ground and the holy music and all this other BS. That's how he booked himself. And you have to be thinking to yourself, other wrestlers backstage had to feel some type of resentment towards him, the way that he was booking himself. You know, and let's be honest, if I was an EVP as well, I would book myself the exact same way to, have a slight advantage. But again, like I said, that probably rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And I guarantee you, it wasn't until people like Bryan Danielson and CM Punk got into AEW that, they were talking to Cody and letting him know that his shit didn't stink anymore. And I guarantee you it was probably CM Punk that said it. Bryan Danielson doesn't seem like the guy to say something like that. Bryan Danielson just wants to enjoy himself and wrestle. That's all Bryan Danielson wants to do. But when it comes to CM Punk, I can guarantee you he probably said something of that regard. That, hey, your shit doesn't stink anymore. And that probably pissed Cody off. And if you look at it, once Tony Khan took away Cody's power to book himself as the top guy, that was like the final nail in the coffin. That was the final straw. And then Cody wants this absurd amount of money. And when you really think about it, Cody Rhodes, if this is true, he wanted $3 million on top of the check that he was getting from Turner TBS for the Go Big show. I mean, they're just becoming money hungry, and then they're just becoming a money slut. And Cody Rhodes was becoming a money slut. Let's just be honest here. So he's going to get his wish. A lot of people are covering the story. TMZ, all the, the dirt sheets. Everybody's talking about Cody Rhodes and Brandy leaving for WWE. So he's going to go to WWE. I do not believe that he's going to be treated as a mid Carter. A lot of people believe that he's going to be treated like a mid Carter at WWE. I don't believe that because, again, he's going to WWE where they are desperate for stars right now. And WWE has tape on Cody. They can pull from the archives and, matches that he's had in the past. They can do that. And I do believe that they're going to send, put a rocket on Cody's back and send him to the moon. They're going to give him the championship. He's going to have a match probably against Seth Rollins at WrestleMania to help fill Shane McMahon's spot. Again, Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes does sound like a good match on paper. I would really like to see that match as a wrestling fan. But again, he's going to go there. Again, don't think that he won't do a few jobs, later on, or Vince won't put the screws to him a little bit, for creating AEW. Don't think that at all. But he's gonna get the money that he wants at WWE. He's gonna get that star power that he's been craving. That's the only thing that Cody Rhodes wants is that Hollywood star. Let's be honest. And that's my personal thoughts on Cody leaving AEW to join WWE. Again, it's obviously not a work. This is going to happen. We'll see Cody Rhodes probably on SmackDown since Raw is kind of like, Raw is Raw. So he'll probably end up on SmackDown, take on Seth Rollins at WrestleMania, have a match at WrestleMania, and then furthermore, possibly move to Raw during the shakeup at the beginning of the year, however they want to do that. And then we'll see Cody get a world title run, depending on who that is. But hey, that'll do it, guys. This is Big Comics Degenerates in association with Dirty D's Pro Wrestling page.